Good evening, residents of the city of South Fulton. I am Councilwoman Carmelita Gumbs, and I want to thank you for joining us tonight for our summer chat series. This is part 3, all about the town center. I know that this has been very exciting, and a lot of people are interested in where is the town center going to be in the city of South Fulton. So I'm excited to talk to you today, and then also to bring in some of our key special guests so we can all talk about the town center and share your input and feedback and what you would like to see in your town center for the city of South Fulton. So tonight, we will have an interactive conversation talking about, again, the town center. you as a resident will be able to weigh in and share your thoughts and ideas of exactly what you are wanting to see in the town center. So we're going to get right to it because I'm excited and I want to make sure that we maximize our time. So I am about to bring on our Economic Development Director, who is Mr. Christopher Pike. Many of you know him. You've seen him out and about in the community. You've seen us turning a little bit of dirt. But he is definitely here, and he has done a wonderful job for the city of South Fulton. So we are excited to have him, and we're excited to talk about the town center. So what's going to take place now is that he's going to actually bring on his team, and they're going to talk to you. Again, as I mentioned, it's interactive. Please put your information or questions in the chat. They will respond. But I want you all to really be engaged in this conversation. And if your neighbors are not on or have not joined this conversation, please make sure you share this with them. We'll be here for about maybe an hour or so. So again, Mr. Pike, I am going to give it to you. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you for that great introduction, Councilwoman Gumbs. It's always a pleasure to be here with you and to share a lot of the great things that we're doing here in the city of South Fulton around economic development. Before we bring on the team that we engaged to help us work on the Town Center project, we want to have a little bit of discussion about how we got to where we are, because I think that's really important. Back about a year and a half ago, before the pandemic, we actually had started on our economic development strategic plan. And one of the things that we wanted to identify in that plan was where exactly would we put our town center? And so we had a lot of community meetings, a lot of focus groups, we had some SWOT analysis, and we really determined where in the city would be the best place to house the central core of where our community can come together, that sense of place. And so what came out of that, and what was the recommendation from the strategic plan, was an area that was off of Camp Creek Parkway, where the Vandiver Lake is. And so a lot of our energy has been to how do we cultivate the best place that's going to be impactful for the community, which led us to tonight where we are, where we're trying to get feedback from the citizens about what it is that we want to see in that town center and what should that look like for our community. As I always tell people, that it's my job not to create the vision for the city, but to help the citizens create the vision and then implement that vision on behalf of our residents. And so would like to bring on at this time our team that we have been working with to kind of bring this to fruition and to the community. And so I want to turn it over to Herman Howard, who is with Tate Hanson. And I'm going to allow Herman to give a little bit of background about himself, kind of their involvement in the program, and then introduce his team. And then they're going to take us through a very interactive presentation where we can use our cell phones to provide feedback and to vote on things and to provide recommendations and to ask questions. And so I'll let, at this time, Herman and his team take over, and we will be here to answer questions as they come in.
Christopher Pike, thank you so much. And also Councilwoman Gumbs, thank you for the opportunity to allow us to present to some of the residents and to yourselves this evening regarding the journey and, most importantly, the process. And as Christopher Pike was mentioning, we began having conversations some time ago, well over a year now, but really about the big what if. What could happen on this site? What might be some of the things to look at that can be real clues, that can be real elements to strengthen a design? And what are the questions to ask to really create that big idea? And we felt as though that there were some things built in to the site that were absolutely magnificent. We felt as though that there were some things that have recently been added to the site in terms of structures, in terms of programs, things that we really could build on. So we began to ask a lot of questions. One of those main simple questions really is something that we call in the design world constraint mapping. Where can you build? Where can you not build? and where can you build what. So tonight, also as Councilwoman Gumbs was sharing, we really want to talk about just some of our attitudes towards the site, but most importantly, get feedback from you. So we have some pretty important questions to ask at the end of, let's say, like each segment. And we're really looking forward to your feedback. And with that, what I would love to do is to introduce the senior team member, really managing the efforts and also taking that lead design role for the efforts as well. And that's Karen. So Karen is going to be walking us through some of the thought process, some of the things that we had questions about, and that, again, we would love to be able to get feedback from you. If this were not during a time of COVID, post-COVID, these types of interactions usually happen in a nice big room, and we can put paper and drawings and all that stuff on the wall. We can sit around the table and we can get your feedback that way in a more personal atmosphere, or one-to-one, I should say. We're still doing the same thing here. Here we're simply utilizing some of the strengths of technology so that we can chat, so that we can get your feedback, and we can also begin to share with you some of our process. So with that, Karen, if I can turn things over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Herman. Hello, everybody. Good evening. How's everyone doing today? Thank you, Ms. Gumbs and Mr. Pike, for this opportunity. Today is all about being very interactive. So we've built a presentation that has a lot of interactive polling added into it. So I would strongly encourage everybody to participate along with us. Let me quickly go ahead and start sharing my screen, and we can get started. Okay. I hope everybody's able to see my screen. So as Herman said, we've been doing a lot of studies, really trying to understand the context, the lay of the land, and what is existing, and how we can celebrate everything that's existing in creating a vision for the town center. So just to start things off, a few logistics that we would have to do is there's going to be a QR code that is going to show up in the next slide. So I would strongly suggest everybody to have their phones, open their camera app, and you can just hover over the QR code and it will take you to this interactive presentation. If not, you can open your web browser and type in the link ahaslides.com, and it will take you to a code where you'll have to enter COSF 2021. And you would be able to access the interactive presentation as well. Questions can be recorded throughout the presentation in your phone or in your computer, however you're accessing it. You will have a button that says ask a question, and you'll be able to ask a question or enter your comment, and we would be able to get that towards the end so that it builds up a lot of feedback for us to move forward with. And we will have a Q&A towards the end. You can enter your name along with your questions. It is optional. And we will try to get to as many questions as we can given the time. Here's the QR code. So you can hover over it with your camera app on your phone to access the interactive presentation. I'll stop on the slide for 30 seconds and then we can move on. So our goal for this presentation is to collect your feedback by way of questions and comments. So again, please record throughout the presentation by clicking on Ask a Question. The data we receive from you and your responses in the polls will help us formulate a suitable direction to move this conversation forward, help us by participating and play a pivotal role in creating this vision for the city of South Fulton. So we started looking at the overall picture. What is the regional context like? And our main objectives was to understand the regional framework, the boundaries, the districts that make up City of South Fulton, the representatives who represent those districts, and also the demographic data. And this is a map of South Fulton just in its whole entirety. You can clearly see the districts marked out there. We are going to be focused more on districts 1 and 2, which is the region where the town center boundaries lie in. In this slide, you can see on your left is the overall boundary of the town center, the area of interest that we're going to be looking in. And to your right is an image of a particular portion of the town center, which has a lot of cultural value. It is home to the Wolf Creek Amphitheater. It is south of the Camp Creek Parkway and in very close proximity to Vanderveers Lake. Just to orient everybody, this is an aerial image of what we're talking about. The site that houses the Wolf Creek Amphitheater is marked in yellow right here. So as Herman in the beginning told, we did a lot of constraint mapping because we wanted to understand how the site is and, what is the potential that the site can bring and what are the existing constraints in the site that we will have to respect. And our objectives through this was to understand existing connections, proximity, what is the natural context like, the development potential, and just the site itself. We did a series of maps, so we're going to present a few of those maps to you today. This is a walkability map. Here you can clearly see the proximity of the cultural center boundary that you're seeing here in red and how close it is to Vanderveers Lake. Each of these circles the smaller circle represents a 5-minute walk and the larger circle represents a 10-minute walk. So you can see there's quite a bit of overlap and within 5 minutes you can easily get to the lake. And the main goal was to try and see how many of these existing elements were actually trying and falling within this 5 and 10-minute walking radiuses so that there's a potential to improve the existing streets to be pedestrian friendly. We were looking at establishing new connections. Can these connections be vehicular connections coming from Camp Creek Parkway? Can these also be green connections that create a strong network, again, to emphasize pedestrian mobility in this region? We wanted to amplify the existing elements by doing so. In this map, you can see the green trail that is shown on here is the Aero ATL Greenway. It is an extension part of the Aerotropolis Master Plan. And the Greenway has the potential to reach out and connect to some of these and most of these existing elements like the Wolf Creek Amphitheater, the Wolf Creek Library. There is a landfill that fronts the cultural center, the Wolf Creek Amphitheater. So there is a potential to capture the landfill as a celebrated greenscape and also back to the Vanderveers Lake. The impact of establishing new connections. We thought about, new connections, but what is that real impact it's bringing in? There's definitely going to be catalysts for economic development. We want to work with the city to address traffic concerns and propose strategies to mitigate it. We want to promote sustainability, create an environment-friendly network of green trails that would allow people to amplify their pedestrian mobility, create access for all, share and expand the natural context with each other, with the surrounding sites. And by doing so, we want to help create a people-focused place. We also asked, where can we build, where to conserve? So we did a series of diagrams to understand what is the floodway like, because there is Camp Creek that runs north of the site. So we wanted to understand our boundaries. We also looked at topography with the landfill being right in front of the Wolf Creek Amphitheater. That's quite a bit of topography that we would have to deal with to create a greenscape, a park, or maybe a different program there that people can partake in. So we looked at all the natural context and how we can really begin to build a web that could be utilized by the citizens of this region. So first question, I'm hoping everybody was able to log in through their phones using the camera app. If not, I'm going to show the QR code once again for you to sign in. So just hover over the QR code or punch the link in to the browser and it'll take you to the interactive presentation. So our first question to you is, in this cultural and town center and the immediate surroundings, what are the top 3 improvements that you would like to see? You would be able to enter the question, enter the answers, and hit submit, and it would start appearing on the screen. For each of these questions, we will pause for about a minute to really get the feedback in, but you can also, as we move on, you can still keep typing and we would still get your feedback recorded. Thank you. Keep it coming.
This is good. This is good.
I will stay on the slide for 30 more seconds. Thank you, everyone. Please do continue typing in. We also asked why this site and what is the potential and what makes it iconic, and also to understand the existing elements. First is the Wolf Creek Amphitheater, and just it being a catalyst for cultural development. We wanted to try and see how to make it a focal point for this town center. Is there an opportunity to expand music and entertainment in this area, and also create a destination place, one of a kind, in the state of Georgia? Secondly is the Wolf Creek Library. We want to promote learning and try and see how we can connect the library and amplify its presence to the town center, have shared programming between the town center and the library. So really just to give it the utmost use that it can give and promote learning. Green activation, we want to appreciate the natural context. We have Vanderverse Lake, we have the greenway that is proposed, we have a landfill site. So how can we really champion every green aspect that is existing and really make a place for the people? We asked ourselves, what makes a cultural and town center? And the images that you see on screen are just our brainstorming of different elements that we can see being a part of this town center. It can be diversified development. We want to bring in arts and culture, dining, better streetscape, green infrastructure, retail, economic development, multimodal transport. But the overarching anchoring idea is to foster community. So based on everything that I just said, which town center elements should be our top focus according to you? You will be able to select 3 from the list of options that appear on your phone. I will stay on the slide for a minute.
Not residential.
Thank you, everyone. You can still continue selecting. So based on the overarching elements, we wanted to just pick out potential programs that could be in the cultural and town center. Some of the bubbles that you're seeing on screen read museums. We want to create a cultural destination. There can be elements of residential. There can be restaurants. A big element that could be is that the town center could be the home for the city hall and also a public safety headquarters. There is the amphitheater that we want to celebrate. There's the library that we want to program and make full use of. There can be also an opportunity to have an indoor music venue, and also cultural assets. Could it be a place for museums? So these were some of our thoughts. So based on the programming ideas we presented, what are your top 5 that you would like for us to explore? Also, just a reminder, do ask questions by clicking on Ask a Question, the link in your phones. It'll appear on every slide, so you can ask a question, you can post a comment, and we will have all that in our record. Great, thank you, everyone. You can still keep selecting. So museums, we wanted to really get a sense of where you were inclining towards in the type of museums that you would want to see. So what type of museums would you like to see in this cultural center? You can select 3. For anybody joining in just now, once again, here's the QR code to join in on this interactive presentation. You can scan over the QR code. You can also punch in the link, and it'll take you to the presentation, to the current slide. For those of you selecting other, please do enter what the other is in your mind in the Ask a Question box. Great, thank you, everyone. What are other programs, cultural assets, or uses that you would like to see developed on the site? You can enter up to 3 options. Of course, in the previous questions, we would not have covered the full range of programming, but what are your ideas on things that we still haven't asked you to poll on? So please do enter your options and it'll begin to appear on the screen. I'm going to stay for a minute longer on the slide. Great, thank you everybody. Do keep entering. Even as I progress, we will still receive your comments. If you're not able to, you can still ask a question. You can enter it as a comment or ask a question to us. So thank you for participating in the feedback. We have your answers to guide us in this visioning process. We will now move into Q&A. And we have some questions that my teammate Nirja is moderating. So, we will go from the top, and how much ever time we have pending, we would try to get to as many. But, we still have the record of all the questions that are coming in today. So we hope to keep that in mind as we move forward. So if I can direct the first question, will we ensure upskill shops are in the town center? Yes, I would like to defer this to Mr. Pike.
He's muted.
Oh, Mr. Pike, I think you're muted.
There we go. My apologies. My buttons disappeared. Forgive me. So yeah, I'm gonna kind of help answer some of these questions. The ones that we can't get to, we can definitely try to respond later on. Just wanted to, before we get into the question and answers, a lot of this all of this information is going to be used to inform some site plan work that Tate Hansen will be doing. And so we'll actually have a follow-up to this particular presentation where they actually bring back some visioning of what it could physically look like based on the feedback that they've received. And so we definitely will have more follow-up to just this meeting. So all of your information is very important as we try to build a town center that's reflective of our community. So I'll go ahead and take the first question. Obviously, this is a reoccurring theme about upscale shops, fine dining restaurants. We heard it when we were doing our strategic plan. Every time we have a public meeting, we hear it. And so as staff, we get the message loud and clear. We definitely have working on a plan to make sure that we attract the right types of retail and dining to our area. And so that is one of the reasons why we've done a lot of the things around our foundational things around economic development by creating incentives so that we can make sure that we can attract the right type of development for the community based on feedback that we've been hearing from citizens. The second question is, I'm not a fan of expanding MARTA down Camp Creek to the town center. Is that part of the overall plan? I will say, it would be irresponsible of us not to take into account all transportation options. So we will look at what best fits in and how that best makes the town center work for everyone. And so obviously all modes of transportation, whether it be bus, rail, bikes, roller skates, scooters, we'll see how that works in. And everything may not work for our town center and everything may not be something that we need to do, but we'll be evaluating all options as they are available to us. Obviously, we will definitely be looking at trails. There are several trails that are in plans with different entities, and we're working to make sure that all of those have some synergy. For example, Aerotropolis is working on a plan that connects most of the communities south of I-20. So that will be one plan, the Aero ATL Greenway plan. The city is in the middle of doing a parks master plan. As part of that master plan will also include connectivity with trails. And then there is the Chattahoochee Riverlands, which is working on a trail down the Chattahoochee River, which will go from Lake Lanier down to basically Coweta County. And that trail will also be taken into account. So we will envision a lot of connectivity between our neighborhoods, between our developments. And so walkability is definitely going to be a big part of what we're doing as a community as we move forward. Regarding access via Camp Creek Parkway, is there plans to transform the intersection along Camp Creek Parkway into express interchanges similar to what is happening on Highway 316? So I will say that we have been in discussions with GDOT. One of the things that we understand from a staff standpoint is that transportation and traffic has to be addressed before we bring development into the area. And so I want to make it clear to the citizens that we're not naive to the fact that we have to address traffic flow and transportation. Our goal is not to create an environment that people want to stay away from. We want to create an environment where people want to come to, and that has to also be addressed through proper traffic planning. And so we've been working with GDOT to look at Camp Creek. They have some very thoughtful ideas about how to address traffic flow on Camp Creek, to include separating truck traffic from regular vehicle or car traffic. And so we are basically sharing all of the plans that we have from development standpoint so that they understand where the city's planning is and how they can better assist us. So we are working with them to address traffic flow on Camp Creek. So great question, and I'm glad somebody brought that up. So street lights, all the beautification projects along Camp Creek, that will be included in this development plan as well. And so obviously we want to make sure that our city is attractive and is well lit. I know that we have had some concerns about lighting on Camp Creek, and those will, as we plan and grow, definitely we want to make sure that those are addressed as we move forward. Vandiver Lake is actually privately owned. We have had some preliminary conversations with the property owners. Obviously, in economic development, those deals you don't kind of discuss publicly, but we've had some conversations with them about their involvement in the town center project. Has any thought been given to the option to connect the town center to other areas of the city, like bike, walking paths? And we kind of already addressed that issue. That will, the most of our connectivity will be addressed in the Parks Master Plan. That plan has not only connected neighborhoods and our other development areas, but also parks. So there'll be a network of parks that will, trails that will connect assets throughout the city. Can 18-wheelers be rerouted off Camp Creek Parkway? Unfortunately, the answer to that is no. Camp Creek is a state or a GDOT road. They have control over that. As I did mention earlier in one of my other questions, we are working with them to figure out a safer way to separate cars and 18-wheelers and trucks so that it makes it safer, but it definitely won't be where they won't they won't be rerouted from Camp Creek. Okay, we've talked about the upscale shops and the beautiful landscape. We're definitely going to work on that. Increase park and green space and eco-friendly housing. Definitely working on that. Capitol Grill, that's a recommendation. That's a great recommendation. Potential start and end date. As Councilwoman Gomes will tell you, I shun giving start and end dates because they usually come and we haven't started and people are looking at you crazy. I will say that I'll give you some perspective. So Sandy Springs, which is at this point been a city 13, 14 years, they just opened their kind of town center, city hall area 2 years ago. So it took them about 12, 13 years. I don't anticipate it will take us that long just because we put a lot of foundational stuff in place. But I wanted to give you, Sandy Springs, which is, in some respects very similar to us as far as population size and things of that nature, how long it took them. But I would probably not be wise to give you when we're going to start and when we're going to end. All right, I think we addressed that.
A lot of comments also coming in on what people would like to see apart from just the questions in general. So retail, streetscape, yes, those are improvements that we will be addressing. Will there be EV charging stations added, Mr. Pike?
Yes, well, we've actually in the city have had conversations related to EV charging stations even before the town center discussion. So definitely we understand that we need to be on the cutting edge of future trends. And so we will definitely have space allocated for future technologies and technologies that are here, but also technologies that we know are going to be coming in the future. So definitely we'll be programming that in the town center.
Will the city invite retailers to consider our town center, and how do we get them here?
Yes. So the short answer is that we will create a marketing plan once we get it all finalized and all the input has been taken, and we create a site plan and the mayor and council have approved a direction to go into. We will then begin putting marketing material that we will go out and aggressively seek out specific type of retailers. We anticipate that we will have development partners who will also be involved in this, and they will then also help us recruit those retailers. But we will have some guidelines about what we want to see and how we're going to address bringing those specific retailers to our community.
More comments, more art, botanical garden. This should be a top-notch African American history museum. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Other museum is equal to history of South Fulton. So we had asked Mr. Pike about what other museums that we could have, and a suggestion is a museum based on the history of South Fulton. A museum about ancient Egypt. Kemet, tell us about the history before slavery. A museum which celebrates cultural contributions to Georgia, Atlanta specifically. Great. Question, can the lake support water sports or boating? Mr. Pike.
That's actually an excellent question. I think as we do evaluations and determine the conditions of the lake, I think that will tell us what it will and can and cannot support. At this point, we just don't really know the capacity of the lake, the condition. All of those things will come out as we do more in-depth evaluation. There'll be a lot of ecological and other types of surveys that will be done on the area, and that will begin to tell us what we can and can't do on the lake.
How can we prevent MARTA expansion into our community? Mr. Pike?
I don't really know how to answer that question. I don't particularly know. I know that there's been some concern about transportation, but I think that as we look to the future, we need to evaluate all modes of transportation, and obviously MARTA being a great opportunity for us to look at transportation. So,
will there be bike and walking trails? Yes, that is something that is being considered to promote the pedestrian-friendly mobility in the region. Will residents have input to the types of stores and restaurants? Mr. Pike?
Yes, I think that, obviously we're getting feedback from residents now about what they want to see. I think this is a great opportunity for you to provide specific input if there are things that you think that you want to see. Obviously, we can't guarantee that, oh yeah, this particular store is going to come. There's a lot of things that go into stores and retails and restaurants picking a community. And so definitely we want to get the feedback from the citizens, but obviously what actually comes is going to be based on a lot of factors. But definitely would love to hear. I don't think it's a situation where we say, oh, this restaurant's going to come and then people get to vote whether or not they want it or not. It's not going to be that specific, but specific types of restaurants, we definitely want to hear feedback from citizens and retail what they want to see as well.
Has the city acquired the land yet?
There are specific aspects of the development that we have acquired, and there will be some other aspects that we'll discuss in the future as they come to fruition.
What is a plan for parking and traffic with the influx of traffic when concerts are being held at the amphitheater?
I think that's a great question. As we had mentioned earlier, that's something that with Karen and Herman and the team that we'll be evaluating as we look at the uses, what will be programmed in the area, how much future anticipated traffic. Then we will begin to actually create plans to mitigate and to address the influx of traffic. So that will be part of what happens when we go through this planning process, is how to address traffic and flow of traffic.
Are there single-family homes planned for the area?
I think that it's good to talk about that. There's probably going to be a mix of housing uses as we look to bring the area online. I do anticipate that single family will be a part of the mix of housing that will be available as we develop out the whole town center.
Great. We have a few more questions coming in. How are we with time? I believe we had like an hour to present. So should we say 7? We have like 8 more minutes. So
I think we're good to go for about another 8 minutes.
Okay.
Councilwoman Gumbs, you chime in, and when you want us to stop, we'll answer as many questions as we can.
Can we avoid fast food restaurants?
I think that, obviously when we look at the mix of restaurants, we'll be able to determine, what will and won't work in there. So avoid is a strong word. We don't want to single out any type of restaurant type, but we definitely are going to be very specific about what we bring into the area.
Will the access be from Camp Creek only or Merck and Enon too? Because of the scale of the site, and there's opportunities to just have access from wherever the potential is to get access, because that would be number one to just alleviate any traffic concerns that people may have, just for them to easily get to the site. So yes, there will be multiple access points.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad you jumped in there.
Lake is currently supporting fish and aquatic life. Will there be an area slated for fishing?
I think that gets determined by what the citizens want to see. Definitely, we know that that there's active fishing that takes place on the lake, and certainly we know that people enjoy that. So I think that that's definitely something that we should evaluate and look at and see how that fits in with the overall planning.
Are we looking at doing something similar to Avalon in Alpharetta?
I think that's it's a good reference point. Obviously, our development will look like what our community wants it to look like. But I think when you look at the type of quality and the type of amenities, I think you can get some reference points. There's other communities that are doing great things as well that you could look at. And so we definitely, as I tell people, I like to be the standard by which everyone else is measured. And so we'll either be as good or better than what other folks are doing.
What's the approximate acreage in this development plan?
So this is not going to be something that gets done all at once. The total site plan is somewhere around 800 acres. That includes, acreages across Camp Creek and other areas. So, I mean, it's a massive development and will take, many, many years to complete. But the total acreage is right around 800 acres.
Will this community engagement continue to include all residents?
Yes, we want to, this is going to be, obviously Town Center is in a geographical area in the city, but we want this to represent the entire city and not just specific areas in the city. So we encourage feedback from everyone. We're going to be providing some information for people to continue to provide comments after this. And so if there are people who weren't able to make the call or weren't involved in this particular session, we still will be taking feedback that we will be then giving to the team to put into consideration for the finished product.
What was the price range? What would the price range be for single family homes?
I think it's just really premature to answer that question. We don't really know the answer to that at this point, but we anticipate that it will be something that is representative of the community.
Will the transfer station location be impacted?
So we're talking about the, I'm assuming the solid waste transfer station that is on is it Merck Miles, I'm assuming is what we're talking about. It won't be impacted by this development. No.
What are the plans to bring in sustainable career jobs in the area so one does not have to commute for miles?
Well, one of the things that we've done is created an economic development incentive plan for the city of South Fulton. And that plan has provided target industries that we want to look to attract to the city with those plans bringing in sustainable careers. And so a lot of the things that we're looking at is healthcare, some high-tech jobs as it relates to technology, corporate headquarter type jobs. So we have provided incentives for specific types of jobs to come to our community. And so that's how we plan to address that sustainability and what we call livable wage jobs.
Okay. Yes, we will definitely read through the administrative guidelines for tree preservation. It is a wooded site, and we would respect and preserve green space in this effort. So we are almost nearing the end of our time. We have time for one more question. Again, what is the plan for wildlife preservation? We are still in the beginnings of a conversation on what could be potentially conserved on the site. So we are going to work with the suitable departments to determine that. Will there be any change as far as code enforcement in reference to the horse farms and livestock? Mr. Pike?
Well, I can't answer that question because I'm not over code enforcement.
Okay.
So I think that would be a question for them, but we definitely can send that to them to reference.
We will do that. Okay, great. We are almost there. So thank you, everybody, for putting your questions in. Questions that did not get answered, we still have a record of that. So we will be answering and addressing some of those in round 2. For anybody who was not able to enter questions through the interactive session or people joining by phone, you can send us your questions, comments, and ideas by reaching out to dsf@cityofsouthfultonga.gov, and we would have a record of your thoughts. So please do email us any additional questions that you may have, comments and ideas to dsf@cityofsouthfultonga.gov. We look forward to hearing from you. So we are at the end of it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
So Karen, hi, this is Councilwoman Gumbs. If a resident goes back and watch the replay and they scan the QR code, will they still be able to input any questions or any of their answers to you if they do that? How long will that QR code last or be up?
The QR code will only be up if we are moderating the presentation. So it would not work past the end of this presentation. Like when we hit the end button for this live stream, the presentation will also be cut off. But again, for anybody who wants to add comments and ideas, so please, they could go to the email and send us their thoughts. And the City of South Fulton will be receiving their responses, and we will be working with City of South Fulton to tailor all of that, really bring it together and have a report in place that we can share with everybody.
Okay. And I'll definitely include this in the newsletter, and we can also share it with the rest of our colleagues. Again, I have shared this not just with District 2 residents, but of course, residents across the city, because this is something that we will be wanting to plan together. So I do encourage you all. I know I see some people that don't even live in the district, but they are chiming in. So that is a very good thing. So we appreciate your feedback. Mr. Pike, I do want to thank you so much for your time today. I am looking forward to part 2, and I learned a few things that were exciting. I think we're all on pretty much the same page of what we would like to see in our community. So I really like that part. But I definitely want to, again, thank you for this. And do you know when we possibly will be having a part 2? With 2 weeks, maybe? Uh-oh, we lost them. Karen, how long you think maybe?
2 to 3 weeks. Yeah, probably, I don't know. I defer to Mr. Pike on that.
Yeah, we will get with the team and make sure that we get a time. It's going to be, my motto is we don't let grass grow under our feet, so it's going to be really, really quick turnaround. But do want to make sure that we can give them enough time to bring back something that I think is going to be to the standard that you and the community would like. So I don't want to give a time. You know me, I'm non-committal with time, but
Yes, very
I-
non-committal.
yeah, I would say as soon as humanly possible. And Herman, I do, Councilwoman Gumbs. I just before we get off, just want to thank you for the opportunity to be able to participate in your involvement and leadership with the Town Center project as well. So, and then I also want to just take this time to say thank you to Herman and his team. I won't tease Herman on this call, but we all know that Karen is a great resource, and we love the work that she does, and so just want to just say thank you to Herman and his team for being great partners with the city.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much, Ms.
Thank
Gums,
you.
Mr. Pike. This is a
Yes,
great
I'm looking forward to it. I know we've been working on this for quite some time, so I'm excited about the end product, and I hope the residents will be as well. So thank you again. So Facebook, well, not Facebook, I guess family that is all across our social media, because we have definitely shared this. Please make sure that you share this with your neighbors, have some conversations about what you all would like to see. Make sure that you email your comments to that email. Can you put that up for us one more time, Karen?
Yes.
Because we value your input and your feedback, we definitely want you to make sure that you take part in this. Is it up? I didn't see. Okay, there it is. Well, if not, I don't see it.
Oh, you're not able to see it?
Okay, there it is. Okay. Uh-oh, go back. One more. There you go. So make sure that you send your thoughts and your comments to dsf@cityofsouthfultonga.gov. It will be monitored, so please provide your input. I will also include this in the newsletter and also share this on social media. Again, thank you all the residents that participated. Again, you can share this with your neighbors and get them all involved as well. Thank you for your time tonight. Thank you to our special guests. Mr. Pike, you always do an amazing job. Thank you, Herman.
Thank you,
Karen.
thank you.
And thank you, Nisha, for participating and bringing this to us. So I look forward to talking with you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
All right. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.